Good afternoon, everybody. Today we are going to do some experiments with the font and text tools in Adobe Illustrator. Most of it is the same as Photoshop, but there are some differences, so we're going to go ahead and look at some of the interesting tools that you can use. So let's go ahead and open Illustrator, and then go to File, New, and create a new artboard. So with the text tool, it is the Type tool right here. The big T right next to your pen tool, which we've been using. So go ahead and if you just click right on the Type tool, and then this would be the one part that's the same as Photoshop, where if you click and hold, you will create a text area and you can type inside that area. Or if you go ahead and just click off that, I'm going to delete that. And if I click right on here, if I click and just start typing, I can start typing something right away instead of having to make a box. So if I just type the word text, I can go about changing this font in a lot of different ways. So if I click up here, this is my basic, I can go about changing this font in a lot of different ways. My basic options are right up on top of my toolbar here, so I can change the font type. Sorry, don't mind the changing of the class bell. So I can change my font type by clicking on this drop-down menu, and I can look at all the different types of font types in here. I can also change the style. Make it more condensed, italic, semi-bold, bold, all the different parts there, and then I can change the font size. Now my biggest size here is 72, but I can put in other by just double-clicking and then changing it to, if I make it 1,000, it's going to be gigantic, but just so you can see, Control-Z that. I could also right-click on the text when I double-click to outline it, and I will get my font differences here and my size here as well. So you could go that way instead of having to go up to the top menu bar. Or if I click on my selection tool, I could also scale this and I can change it the way I want. And I can manipulate this box and change the text this way too. So there's a lot of different ways you can change the font as soon as you type it in. So those were our basic type options, and now we're going to move into a couple of other things. These two boxes up towards the left of my screen, the first one is the solid fill color of my text. So if I click and hold on here and I go through all these swatches, if I click on any of these colors, it's going to change the color of my text. So that's one way you can do it, or I could double click on the fill box here and I can select a more diverse color range instead of just the swatches. So I can change the color of my text that way. The box next to it is the stroke color. So the stroke color is basically the outline color. So again, if I click on this drop-down menu and I go through the swatches, if I click on any of these, I'm going to change the outline of my text. So let me just do red so you can see it a little bit better. Since it's a very small point, if I increase the stroke size, it's going to increase the outline of the text. The other way I can do that is to come down here and actually select the stroke box, and if I double click on this outline box, then I can do the same thing as I did with my color fill, and I can select a much broader range of colors. So if I click that, I will change the outline there. Now this is where the foreground and background color were in Adobe Photoshop. So if I hit X here, I can switch which one I have active. So now I can go through here and change the fill of my color, just to show you what we do. Now if I click these two arrows here, I'm going to swap those colors. So if I click this arrow, it's going to swap my fill and my outline, just so you know and just so you're aware of that. Okay, so let's get into some more of the complicated options that we have with the Type tool in Illustrator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just minimize this a little bit so I have some more room. Move that over. Now if I click and hold on my Type tool, again you can rip this part off so you have these tools available. So this is my just original Type tool. This next one is the Area Type tool. So to use this, you actually have to create a shape. So you can take any shape from your shape builder, if I wanted to just use a plain circle, or if I wanted to create a shape with my pen tool, I could also do that. And what this Area Type tool does, if I click on here, if I click right inside the shape, you're going to get this. You must click on a non-compound, non-masking path to create text inside a path. So to use this tool, you need to actually click on the path of whatever shape you want to type inside. So if I click on the type path of this circle, it will bring up my Type tool. So you can type whatever you want. I'm just going to start typing some things in here so you can see it. Typing text in this circle is the greatest thing ever, because you know that it is. Now you don't get the full effect because I didn't fill up the entire circle, but just to show you, if I highlight and Control-C to copy, and then I Control-V to paste, I can fill up the whole circle with text. Now it's only going to fill up until you run out of space. So if I needed to get more space in here, I'd have to actually resize my circle, and then it would give me more space to type. So it would be the same thing if I started typing in this area. So if I took my type tool, I'd have to click on the actual path and then just start typing in my words. I'm just typing random letters to fill through here. Hopefully you noticed that when I added the text to these areas that it took away the color and the outline of my shape. So the easiest way I can think of to do that is, say I had this polygon shape right here, but I wanted to add text inside this black shape. What I would do is just do Control-C and then Control-V and paste another shape, and then I would add my text to this area here. So if I start typing text in here, well, it's black, so it wouldn't show up on the black area. So I'm going to go ahead and change this color to white by outlining it, double-clicking, and selecting white. And I can take my selection tool and move it right on top of this shape, and then there's my white text on top of the black shape. So it won't take away the color just by just sliding the shapes over top of each other. So that was the Type in Area tool. We're just going to go right down the line and go through all these typing tools. The next one is the Type on a Path tool, which is pretty self-explanatory, meaning if I create a path with my pen tool here. Now, right now, it's starting to fill in the shape, so I'm going to go ahead and click on No Fill, and I'm going to make my stroke path black so you can see the line. So if I have this path right here that I made with my pen tool, you can see this line. If I take the Type on Path tool and I click right on top of that line, any words or letters that I type will follow that line all the way down to the end. So that is the Type on Path tool. The next one is the Vertical Type tool, which is just what it sounds like. It's just like the regular type tool, except it types straight up and down, which would be vertical. So if I click anywhere and I start typing, my letters will go up and down. Okay. The next one is the Vertical Area Type tool. So it's just like the Type Area tool in the fact that if I create a shape and then I want to type inside that shape, if I click on my Vertical Area Type tool, I need to click on the path, but now instead of typing regular, it's going to type again vertical, which would be straight up and down, and the more that I type, the more it will fill in. Okay. And the next one is the Vertical Type on a Path tool, which is just like the Type on a Path tool in the fact that I would need to make a path. If I take a shape and try to do this, and then I take the Type on a Path tool and I click on that path, it's going to go all the way around the shape. Or again, if I make a line, if I use my pen tool and I create a path here, let me go ahead and make my fill none, and I'm going to make my stroke path black so you can see it again. If I click off of here, you can see this line. If I take my Vertical Type on a Path tool and I click on it, now again, these letters are going to be vertical, which would be up and down, but they're following the top of the path to the bottom of the path. So if I go ahead and click off of that, you'll be able to see how they're typing vertically instead of horizontally like this one. So there are three more things that I would like to show you, but first I'm just going to make some space on my document here by moving some of these around. With the Type in an Area tool, either the horizontal Type in an Area tool or the vertical Type in an Area tool, I made this other document with just some random shapes in it. One of the benefits of using your pen tool to create these shapes is you can type it in an area that might not give you an exact shape. So if I needed to make this shape here and I needed to just type text into this random spot in between my circle and my rectangles here, let me go ahead and make this no fill so you can see. Say I needed to type in this area right here, I can draw that shape with my pen tool, then take the Type in an Area tool, and I can type right inside of it. So using the pen tool to create your own shape gives you a lot more control. So that was one thing that I wanted to show you. The other two things I wanted to show you were actually taking text and creating outlines of it. So I'm going to type my name down here, and I'm going to go ahead and make it bigger. Now say I want to change just like one letter in here. I can't when it's all one giant text box. So if I want to just change some of the points in the M, one of the things I can do is create all of these letters into shapes. So if I right-click, right where it says Create Outlines, if I click on this, it then turns all of my letters into shapes. So let me zoom in on this so you can see the points a little bit better. So now I have all these points all over my letters. If I take my selection tool, the black one, if I move it around, it moves all of my letters. So I'm not doing anything to one individual letter. If I click on the direct selection tool, then I can click on individual points. So say I wanted the top points of my M to be bigger, I can click on that point and drag it up. Click on this point and drag it up. So by playing around with the creating outlines option, you can take fonts that you want to change little bits about it, and you have more control over what you're doing. This also can allow you to change the outlines of the letters and create gradients inside them. So let me show you how to do that. So if I go back to my direct selection tool and I drag over all of these letters to get them all selected, I can come right over to my gradient tool. If I click on my gradient and I click inside, it'll put a gradient in every letter. So it doesn't just put one gradient through the whole word, it puts a gradient in each letter. And then again, if you were to change the colors, you need to double click on the little spray paint can symbol, and you can pick a swatch for an easy color, or pick on the paint palette, and then you can pick whatever color you'd like. So say I leave it there, and don't forget you can change both levels of it. So if I double click on the white, I can change it to another level of color and have gradient from that to that. And don't forget that you can also add another level of color inside too. So if I just click inside here, I'll be adding multiple levels, and just so you can see, if I had the black stripe there, I mean that looks kind of ridiculous. I'm just going to change it to red or something. So you can change the gradients that way. You can change the direction of the gradient by changing this angle here. It'll move it depending on what part of the angle you put it on. You can also change it from linear to radial, which will put it as a radial part radiating from the center out. So that was the last thing I wanted to show you with the fonts and the type tools. So I will put a list on Google Classroom of all the different experiments that you're going to do with the fonts and type tools today, and then you will submit that to Google Classroom.